And after a week of procrastination, I finally got around to watching Total Nonstop Deletion. What can I say other than it is what you expect when you hear that phrase? If you know what to expect from Matt Hardy in his broken state running the show, especially after watching his previous two things, Delete or Decay, and but it's what you would expect, and it's entertaining as hell. From the get-go, where we see the Fox News... I'm not saying Fox as in F-O-X, I'm saying Fox as in fake news segments telling the viewers that Cameron, North Carolina is going to be shut down that night because a volcano has appeared out of nowhere. That sets the ridiculous tone for this show. And the entertaining tone for this show, I might add. And we get footage from the Hardy compound. I mean, the outside stuff is how this footage is normally shot, the very cinematic quality, which I really do love how they shoot this stuff, and I want to know who the cinematographer they get for this is. Is it someone that they know personally who they have do it? Did they do it themselves? It's a question I'd like to have answered. A great way to set the stage, them getting the compound ready. Then we go right into where they have the ring, which I'm assuming is supposed to be inside a barn or something, complete with the drawing of broken Matt Hardy above the entranceway, which that really sells it. The first match we get of the night is King Maxwell's in-ring debut, which was against Rockstar Spud. Spud comes out and basically shoots on Maxwell, on Matt Hardy, on the wrestling fans. He's like, Maxwell hasn't even wrestled yet, and he's already more over than me. Which I got a little bit of a chuckle out of that. So they agreed to have him be Maxwell's first opponent, and he decided to make it a no DQ match, which the moment I heard that, I'm like, yeah, they're going to jump him. So what happens right when Maxwell gets to the ring? What should happen? But Senor Benjamin comes over, tases him, and Maxwell gets the 3 count. Now, since Maxwell's not even a year old or a little over a year old, there's really not much you can do. And they shot and edited this to accommodate that, which makes me wonder what the people in the audience live were thinking when they were filming this. But they probably play along with it because they go along with it on camera with how this is edited to make it look like Maxwell actually ran across the ring and got on him himself and then pinned him. Makes me wonder what Maxwell's going to think when he gets older, like 10 and up, and they show him this footage. He's going to be like, this is what my dad did when I was a baby? Man, why can't I remember any of this stuff? Or maybe I don't want to remember any of this stuff, but it's also going to be something funny that when he's of dating age, they can show him, oh, by the way, you want to see what King Maxwell did when he was a baby? Dad, no, don't bring out the footage, Dad. No. It's going to be something funny like that. And then we got a women's match. It was originally supposed to be Rosemary defending her title, but since Rosemary is permanently banned from the Hardy compound for attempting to kidnap King Maxwell, she could not defend it. So we get Sienna in a number 1 contenders match. Originally it was going to be against Vanguard 1, but the referee's like, no, we're not going to have a diva versus a drone. Get out of here. So instead, it's ODB, and she definitely does look a little bigger since the last time we've seen her, but she still pulled off a pretty good match with Sienna. And at one point, we get a ref bump, and who should come out to attempt to count the fall for ODB, but Vanguard 1. He lands in holographic 1, 2, 3, but then the ref pulls him out and says, I'm the referee here. And while Vanguard 1 and the referee are arguing, Sienna goes out, gets a chair, hits ODB in the back, in a chair shot that looks a little weak, but ODB sold it pretty well. And then we get the 3 count. And in between this stuff, we get a couple more segments of people arriving at the compound or heading there. We see Shane Hurricane Helms coming with 2 other guys. He's outside of character. And they mentioned something about the Lake of Resurrection when talking with them. So I have a feeling I know what's coming when I heard that. Then, of course, we got another segment involving the Rock and Roll Express showing up at Hardy's front door, or as he calls them, the Express that likes to rock and roll. And he invited them in for some food and beer. And I like one of the comments they say before they head inside. It's like, God sure loves crazy people. He made a lot of us. That got a little bit of a chuckle out of me. He's like, yeah, he's kind of right there. And the next match saw a scrub, I'm assuming, named Chet Sterling take on Itchweed, another alter ego of Jeff Hardy. And I have to say, if you think Jeff Hardy is strange in and of himself, his alter egos are just plain weird. First we had Willow, and now we have Itchweed. And they just have weird names. You can just say funny Willow, it's weed. Willow, it's weed. And this one is just weird is probably the only word you can use to describe him. He comes out with a weed whacker of all things, and he does use it after the match. Doesn't kill the person, obviously. He just destroys a bunch of his clothes, and then Sterling gets out of there. At one point, he puts a sleeper hold on Sterling, and then he passes out for a second himself, and the announcers even talk about narcolepsy and all of that, and it's like, okay, that's a little bit weird. In the end, Itchweed does get the victory, and just watching this is like, okay, this is a bit weird. At least they gave him the victory, because I wasn't watching TNA at the time, but I think Willow lost in his debut matches. Not a way to show a new alter ego, unless you're trying to just make it a total joke alter ego. I mean, even Mick Foley's alter egos won matches in their debuts. I mean, in his debut, Dude Love became a tag team champion with the Texas Rattlesnake Stone Cold Steve Austin. The following match was for the World Heavyweight title, champion Eddie Edwards versus the former champion Bobby Lashley. Now, I have been a fan of Lashley ever since his WWE run. Granted, his character wasn't the best, but there was something about him I just couldn't help but like. Now, you can say that them putting the ECW title on him at that one moment was probably a mistake in hindsight because of the whole CM Punk situation, but I got behind him because of that whole feud with Vince, even though you can also make the argument that Vince putting the ECW title on himself was stupid and kind of buried that title, but that's for a different day. I was kind of sad to see him leave WWE when he did. I really think he could have done more. He might have been the first fully black WWE champion, because some people don't like to count The Rock. It's like, oh, he's half Samoan, so it doesn't count. Really. Anyway, this match I thought was decent, even though it had a non-ending, at least at this point in the night. Back and forth. At one point, Eddie was in charge. Another point, Lashley was in charge of the match. Two big spots of this match. One, at one point, Lashley powerbombed Eddie into the crowd. Now, it's probably just a bunch of plants in the crowd, but it's still a nice little visual. I mean, he just took out about 10 men with a powerbomb. And before that, Eddie had gotten the crowd involved by having them hold Lashley down when he went to go attack him, which was a nice little way to get the Broken One's followers involved. Then, before it went to commercial break again, Lashley, back in control, spears Eddie through a door, and then they go start fighting into the woods. And when it comes back from break, we go into the next match, which, of course, is Tag Team Apocalypto. Now, before I get into that, I don't really know much about Eddie Edwards, but I know some people don't believe him as a world champion, which I could sort of see when you see him next to Lashley. I mean, I can buy a smaller guy beating a bigger guy depending on how the match is put, because I always, bring up Bruce Lee as an analogy when people say, oh, a smaller guy can't beat up people bigger than him. Well, Bruce Lee could have probably kicked, well, not probably, he would have kicked my ass easily. He probably would have kicked Big Show's ass easily with just a couple moves, but with this, I think it might be with how Edwards has been built in the past that maybe some people don't buy him as a world champ, but me, without being that in proper context, I didn't mind him in this, but okay, that was the dog, sorry about that. But in this, it's fine, but who knows, if I start becoming a more regular TNA watcher, maybe that will change. But just for this match, it was fine. Even though I can honestly say Lashley definitely looks more like a world champion out of the two. Apocalypto. What else can I say about this? But this was crazy, over the top, and entertaining as hell. If you've seen the Final Deletion, End, Delete, or Decay, you know what to expect out of this, and more. I mean, I can't go over every single little moment of this thing, but I'm just going to mention some of the highlights. For starters, Gregory Shane Helms got thrown into the Lake of Resurrection twice. Once by the Hardys, and he came out with his WCW boy band gimmick, which I just love their reaction. Matt's like, the Lake of Resurrection has never failed like this, and he starts dancing with his entourage guys, and like, wait a minute, you're not them. They were way better. So they turn on him, super kick him, and knock him back into the lake. And a little while later, he comes out as the Hurricane, sporting a new costume. And he's basically mad that he was betrayed, and he flies away, and he ends up saving Matt from an elimination, and they basically bury his entourage, both literally and figuratively. And this is where we get the little moment where they have a little shot at Triple H where broken Matt is like, even the man with 3 H's in his name will appreciate how we bury this young talent. And they both give a thumbs up at the camera, which, if Triple H did watch this, I wonder what ran through his head at that point. He's probably thinking something along the lines of, I'm not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure people get buried for it. Decay, they annihilate a bunch of people, and it's hinted that they actually killed them, based on comments they said, like they snap a guy's neck and beat up another guy with a rock. And then they eventually are the last ones to get pinned to allow the Hardys to retain their tag team titles. The Rock and Roll Express earlier on in the event help the Hardys chase off Decay using some more of the fireworks, which is nice to see the fireworks here. I think we're going to see them in each and every one of these things. I just love this creative spot. And of course later on we got an addition one where we got a firework fight between Abyss and Vanguard 1. Finally, they are arming the drone. Ricky Morton got stranded inside a piece of construction equipment. I don't remember offhand what it's called, but it's that thing with a lift on it that you use to reach high places. At one point, him and Jeff were having a little wrestle-thon up on it, and then Matt got to Ricky Morton's controls and stranded him up top. Jeff did try to do a swanton bomb. The other member of the Rock and Roll rolled out of the way, but then he got twisted-fated by Matt, and Matt pinned him to eliminate the Rock and Roll Express, and then Jeff got called a spot monkey, and Matt welcomed Ricky Morton to the darkness of deletion. And then he's just standing there, and he's like, let me down! This ain't funny anymore! And then just randomly, Road Warrior Animal shows up, and that's the only time we see him. He's like, Ricky Morton, is that you up there? So I was wondering if Animal was going to show up in the rest of the fight, but nope. That's just him, just a brief cameo. Nice to see him in this thing, but it's like, wasted effort. He could have actually been involved in the fight. Who was involved in the fight was Hornswoggle. He was Rockstar Spud's partner, and he betrayed him later on, and at one point he tried to attack Bobby Lashley, which that's another thing, is that we actually got to see Lashley. We got to see Lashley and Eddie Edwards fighting throughout the compound a couple times off and on, though it was a little bit sad that we did not get to see them actually in their match, but I guess it hints that they're fighting for the rest of the night through the town. And he just no-sells Hornswoggle's attack and knocks him to the ground. And Hornswoggle, when he gets his partner eliminated, he low blows him, it looks like, and then does his tadpole splash to him, and then lets Helm's boys get him. The other member of Decay gets knocked into the volcano, which, when they mentioned a volcano at the beginning, I was thinking, okay, either this thing is going to erupt at one point in this match, or someone's getting thrown in the volcano. And he got twisted-fated into the volcano, got thrown up in the air, landed in the ring, and Matt pinned him, and that's how the Hardy Boys retained the tag team titles in Apocalypto. And also, Abyss got hit in the stomach with his nailed piece of wood, which is like, oh, that's what you get for hitting Brother Nero with it at Delete or Decay. That's about all the main highlights. There's a lot more that happened, like referee coming out of the bathroom, among other little minor moments, but they were all entertaining. That's just the main stuff. The only other big thing to note is that at the end of the show, we found out that there is another little Hardy on the way. So Maxwell is no longer the sole heir to the Hardy legacy. I sense a King Maxwell heel turn in the future, hopefully. That'd be a little interesting thing, but I doubt they'll do that. But, you never know. So it makes me wonder what's going to happen next and how long we're going to have to wait for the next deletion thing. I mean, they shouldn't do it every week, but they're the most entertaining things that TNA's been doing for a long time, as others, as well as myself, are saying. And it actually is going to probably get me to at least record Impact each week, if for nothing else than to just watch the broken Matt Hardy segments and his broken brilliance. And while I was watching this, and even before it even got to the main part of the show, I was thinking, if TNA ever goes under, it'd be nice to see broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero in Lucha Underground. because this is the type of character and all this shtick would work well in there, and I could just imagine how they could work him into that. Have Dario Cueto come back to his office from making some announcement in the ring. His chair's turned around, and he tells someone sitting in there, he's like, "Who is in my chair?" It turns around, and it's broken Matt Hardy, and he's like, "Brother Dario, I knew you'd come." And then you could just work it from there, like maybe Dario's trying to get rid of him or something. There's so many possibilities with that. I mean, you could do it as a season ender, or like a mid-season cliffhanger, and then go off for a couple weeks. It could work.